What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with the RK Outpost, and all too often it seems like the people who virtue signal the hardest often have something to hide. And in the case of James Bond director Cary Fukunaga, that seems like that may be the case. We heard Cary Fukunaga come out and talk about this movie. He virtue signaled about how Bond had to be different in this era, how we can't have the same old James Bond. And in fact, he called the James Bonds of the past rapists. That's what he did. And everybody said, that's ridiculous, Cary. That's not what James Bond is about. That's never what he's been about. Why would you say something like that while you're trying to market this film? And I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind that the woke marketing behind James Bond No Time to Die ultimately did affect the box office. And now it seems something's coming out about Cary Fukunaga's past that maybe is a reason why he was virtue signaling so damn hard. Take a look at this from Breitbart. Nolte, woke Bond director Fukunaga accused of firing actress who refused to strip naked. So now, Cary Fukunaga is kind of caught up in a Me Too situation of his own. And as you can see, that's basically how Bound in Comics describes it. No Time director Cary Fukunaga hit with hashtag Me Too accusation for allegedly firing actress Raiden Greer after she refused to do a nude scene. And to be very clear, I want to be very fair to Cary Fukunaga. These are all accusations at this point, but it does seem ironic, doesn't it, that so often when these things happen, when we see someone with a statement like that out of the blue, when he's basically trying to shame James Bond and shame this legacy of a character that he's ultimately directing, and it seemed nonsensical. It seemed like there was no reason behind why you would come out and bash James Bond like that, other than the typical Hollywood, we want to destroy your characters. Maybe there was a deeper meaning to that. Maybe there's some guilt somewhere from Cary Fukunaga for something that happened in his past. Live by the woke sword, die by the woke sword. No Time to Die director Cary Fukunaga falsely accused Sean Connery's James Bond of being a rapist. Now he's facing his own Me Too accusation. The Daily Beast reports after actress Raiden Greer read the interview with Fukunaga where, in a fit of woke virtue signaling, he trashed Connery's Bond as a rapist. She decided it was time to come forward and tell her own story. That is actually pretty funny. The fact that hearing him virtue signal and lie about James Bond in the past was enough to make her come forward. That's interesting. Did I mention live by the woke sword, die by the woke sword? When actress Raiden Greer was offered a small speaking role in True Detective, she was ecstatic. It was minor, but the then 24-year-old eyes nabbing a part in a buzzing new HBO series working alongside Woody Harrelson just might be a stepping stone to something bigger. But she says those earnest hopes were dashed by the time she left set. Humiliated and outraged, Greer retreated to a friend's house to cry after abruptly being fired from the show. The reason for her dismissal? Greer says she refused to go topless in a scene after it was suddenly sprung upon her, despite it not being part of her contract and repeated guarantees she wouldn't have to be nude. So again, making it very clear, when it comes to any of these Me Too allegations, when it comes to any of this, they are allegations until they're not allegations, until they're proven in some way, shape, or form. They are allegations. But the idea that someone would come on this with, she says, the explicit notion that she would not have to appear nude and then go on set and be surprised into this and then be forced to do it, I think that's a very difficult situation for someone to be in. Greer says Fukunaga behaved in the same way the director falsely accused Connery's Bond of behaving. She claims there was nothing in the casting that indicated nudity would be required. What's more, and here's, I think, the key, after she booked the role, no one told her, even though she repeatedly asked about any kind of nudity. She says she repeatedly asked about it because she was playing an exotic dancer and did not want to appear nude. So when taking this, she made it very clear that she didn't want to do this, and that was her understanding when she took the job. Nevertheless, once she showed up to work, she engaged in a tense 10-minute standoff with Fukunaga, who she claims tried every bargaining tactic he could think of to convince her to agree to the nudity. He was trying different things to convince me it's not a big deal. It was going to be very tasteful or just going to be really insignificant in the background. I was like, well, if it's so insignificant, Why is he so insistent that I have to do this? It was just on and on and on with no budging. And I think it's honestly a pretty rare thing in Hollywood to find someone who is that attached, I guess, to what they view as their morals, right? To their moral center, that they did not want to do that. So I'd have to imagine it's a pretty tough place for a young, unknown actress to be in on the set of this when someone's trying to force you to do something. She refused to back down, she says, because there was no nudity rider in her contract and her overall feeling of discomfort. She was later fired and replaced by an extra. It was extremely shitty. It was horrible, Greer told Daily Beast. To know how little I mattered and how little whatever I brought to the table meant to them, I was like, you are just completely disposable, and even somebody who has never fucking acted before can do this, so go home, we'll get anybody else to come here and do it. So it was degrading, it was humiliating, it made me feel terrible. As soon as I got in my car, I started crying. I called my agent, I told her what happened, and she couldn't believe it. Fukunaga is refusing to comment. So there she is right there, Raiden Greer. Ah, man, it's just, it happened. We see this all the time. It reminds me a lot of male feminists in a way. These people who will outwardly say all of these things about respecting women and toxic masculinity and all this stuff, while in reality, they're doing creepy shit. They are creeps behind the scene. That seems to be the way it always plays out. And I've said it maybe 3 times. These are just accusations against Cary Fukunaga of something that happened years ago on set. But the idea that when he came out and virtue signaled about Sean Connery, the way that Sean Connery's James Bond had treated women before, and that inspired someone who he had treated shitty on set in the same way he was accusing James Bond falsely of acting, then that comes back and bites him in the ass. Because when you hear these people, when you hear these woke lunatics virtue signal, oftentimes there's some sort of guilt associated with it. And not only did Cary Fukunaga affect James Bond No Time to Die's box office by doing this, by telling people it was going to be just an absolute woke fest, which it wasn't, to its credit. It wasn't near as woke as a lot of stuff made it out to be. And I actually thought it was a fairly good film, maybe a 6.5 or 7. That's kind of where I would put it. But man, you also ended up with a whole nother problem by inspiring someone to come forward and tell a story about you, Cary. Let me know your thoughts about all this in the comments below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.